everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about natural hair do's and don'ts, and I've got eight of those for you. So today's video will be helpful for anyone who wants to start their hair journey but they're not quite sure how to start, or anyone who started their hair journey but it's not quite going as they've planned, or anyone who just wants a general a general recap of some do's and don'ts. If you see me looking down, it's because I've got a little notepad here of basically all the do's and don'ts that I need to put into this video. So let's get started. So we're going to start with the first do is to moisturize your hair daily. Our hair has many layers, and the core layer has moisture in it. Obviously, as it's on the outside of our body, that moisture evaporates. Remember, like, was it key stage 2 science? Moisture evaporates. So yeah, we need to replenish that moisture by moisturizing our hair. You moisturize your hair by using water or water-based products. That can simply be literally water in a spray bottle sprayed onto your hair, or using a leave-in conditioner, or any product where if you pick up and you read the label on the back, water or aqua is listed as the first, and so it is the main ingredient in that product. A popular way of moisturizing your hair is to use the lock method. It stands for liquid, oil, and a cream, lock. And that is where you use a liquid to moisturize your hair. So you may spray your hair with some water in a spray bottle and then apply a leave-in conditioner. You follow that by using the oil to lock in that moisture. As we all know, water / moisture and oil do not mix. So the oil will create a barrier on top of the moisture and prevent moisture from evaporating out of your hair as fast. And then we apply a cream to just double seal all of that in, and your cream is also kind of like your styling agent as well. And that is how you successfully moisturize your hair look. Number 2 on my list is to keep your hair clean. A lot of people have this idea that our hair texture or our hair type grows or thrives in dirty conditions, which obviously everyone's hair is different. Some people's hair likes maybe dirty conditions, some people's hair doesn't. But in general, our scalp does create its own oils called sebum, and if our scalp is creating sebum and we're also putting products on our hair, it's going to cause a lot of build-up. Build-up then leads to clogged hair follicles, which then can affect the overall general health of your scalp, which then affects your hair growth, if that makes sense. But you just want to make sure to be keeping your scalp clean and healthy. And number 3 on my do list is to deep condition. You always want to deep condition your hair after you wash your hair to replace any lost moisture and nutrients that have been that have escaped during the wash process. I know that kind of sounds a bit dumb, but yeah. Number 4 is you want to be using a protein treatment on your hair every 4 to 6 weeks. Now, a protein treatment and a deep conditioner are two different things. A deep conditioner revitalizes. Deep conditioner, usually moisturizes your hair, whereas a protein treatment rebuilds your hair and repairs, rebuilds, strengthens, things like that. If you use a protein treatment too much, you can get protein overload, which will lead to very dry straw-like hair, and that will lead to breakage. On the other end of the spectrum, if you get too much moisture into your hair, you can get a moisture overload, which will lead to very mushy hair, which when you stretch your hair strand, it just stretches and stretches and stretches. It doesn't have any resistance until it just snaps. So you do want to make sure that your protein moisture balance is in check. But that being said, like I said before, you do want to make sure that you're deep conditioning your hair, say after every wash day. So that for me is once a week, but using a protein treatment every 4 to 6 weeks. You don't want to get a protein overload. It's so hard to get back to the balance of protein moisture. Number 5 on my do list is to finger detangle. A lot of people, when they detangle their hair, they use combs, which obviously I do use combs, but if you use incorrectly, combs can wreak havoc on your hair strands and lead to split ends and breakage and things like that. When you're detangling your hair, make sure that your hair is moisturized and saturated in some kind of detangling product or conditioner, and then you want to use your fingers and just work your way through the tangles gently before you go in with the comb. And always make sure you start at the ends as well. Don't start at the roots, because if you start at the roots, you're going to come across tangles and knots in the hair shaft on your way down, and you're going to end up ripping through them. Especially if your hair's not saturated in a product, you're definitely going to end up ripping through them. Moisturized hair, saturated in product, wide tooth comb and fingers from ends to roots. From tip to roots, ends to roots, whatever you want to call it. That's how you detangle your hair painlessly and as effortlessly as possible. Number 6 on my list is protective styling. Protective styling helps hair growth as your hair is growing, it's not being messed around with, and so it's not breaking off. A lot of people say that they find their hair isn't growing, whereas everyone's hair grows unless you have a medical condition. But say your hair grows half an inch a month and it's also breaking off half an inch a month, you're not going to see the hair growth, or that your hair is growing, because it's breaking off faster, at the same rate or faster than it's growing, if that makes sense. So protective styling helps, because as your hair is growing, it's kind of just plaited up, it's being left away, and it's left to grow without being messed around with. It's not breaking off at the same time. With that being said, you do need to make sure that you're protective styling properly. Protective styling can go wrong. You want to make sure that your scalp is being kept clean, that your hair is being kept moisturized, and that your protective styles aren't too tight. If they are too tight, then you may end up bald. You may cause traction alopecia. I think I said that right, which is basically when you put stress on your hair follicles and the hair falls out and you're left bald. That is, a lot of people experience that when it comes to their hairline, when they get braids and things like that. So you do want to make sure that when you're protective styling for the best results, you are protective styling properly. Otherwise, you can give yourself a big setback. Number 7 on my list of do's is to use a silk or satin scarf when you go to bed at night. A lot of people, since a young age, we've all been told to wrap our hair when we go to bed, but we haven't. Well, some people wrap their hair using like a bandana or something like that. When you sleep and your hair is being rubbed against cotton fabric, it will lead to friction, which then will lead to frizz and split ends and breakage and things like that, because obviously you move around as you sleep. Whereas if you use a silk or satin bonnet, headscarf, pillowcase, anything like that, silk or satin is they're like smoother materials, silky materials, so it won't cause as much friction, and so you won't lead to frizz, breakage, or as much frizz, breakage, and all that kind of bad stuff that we want to avoid. Number 8 on my list of do's is to be careful with your hair. The coarser our hair is and the kinkier our hair texture, the more fragile our hair is. I've heard people before say that, like, someone that has really kinky coarse hair, that their hair is strong, when actually the kinkier and the coarser your hair is, the weaker your hair actually is. When you think of a hair strand, as it curls, those are bends in the hair shaft, and each bend in the hair shaft is essentially a weak point. So the more curls you have in the hair shaft, the kinkier your hair is, and so the more weak points you have in your hair shaft, leaving your hair more vulnerable. So imagine, like, this is a bend, so I've just got loads of these going up my hair shaft, but I've got lots of them because my hair's really, I've got really kinky, tight, curly hair, so I've got loads of these weak points in my hair shaft. So I want to make sure that I'm being extra careful when it comes to things like styling and detangling and all that kind of bits. So the coarser and kinkier your hair is, the more fragile it is, so you'll be taking extra care. Yeah. Now on to don'ts. Don't number 1: never ever 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 detangle or style your hair dry. You never want to wake up in the morning or whenever and just go to a head of dry natural hair and just take a comb to it and start detangling it. You just don't want to do that. It's not going to be good. It's probably going to be painful. You're probably going to end up with a lot of breakage and split ends, and you're probably going to have a setback. So, okay, basically when I wake up in the morning, let's say for example, I will wake up, I'll spray my hair with some water. If I'm completely restyling my hair, I'll spray my hair with some water and a spray bottle to moisturize it. I'll then apply a leave-in conditioner followed by an oil, and basically do the lock method. I'll basically moisturize my hair. Then I will take a comb or brush to my hair and start styling it. That way my hair is less likely to break off, because where my hair is moisturized and it's got product in it, the knots will kind of naturally loosen and untangle themselves without me having to rip through my hair and break my hair off as I'm styling it. Number 2 on my don'ts list. Don't use a lot of direct heat on your hair. Like I was saying before, moisture evaporates out of the hair shaft and heat evaporates moisture. So if you're using a lot of heat on your hair, if you're like using heat on your hair every week, then you're going to dry the moisture out of your hair shaft, hair shaft every week, and you're going to eventually end up with like chronically dry hair, which is obviously going to lead to breakage and all that stuff that we want to avoid. So use heat now and again, but don't use heat like all the time. If you are going to use heat a lot, make sure you're on your game when it comes to deep conditioning and treatments and things like that. Number 3 on my don't list, avoid sulfates. Now, a lot of people, some people don't mind sulfates, but this is kind of a general rule for people who are just starting out. If you're just starting out on your hair journey and you're not sure what to do, rule of thumb is to avoid sulfate. This is because sulfates are basically ingredients that are put in like soaps and things that really strip whatever they come into contact with. So if you have sulfates in your shampoo is going to really strip your hair dry, which is going to leave it vulnerable to dryness and breakage afterwards, which obviously we want to avoid. So you can use sulfate-free shampoos instead. Sulfate-free is often listed on the label, or say like sulfate-free somewhere. Or you can co-wash instead, which is using a conditioner to wash your hair. You can use a conditioner that's actually listed or labeled as a co-wash, or you can use a normal conditioner as a co-wash. I personally like to use an actual conditioner that's labeled a co-wash to co-wash my hair. The only thing is though, if you do co-wash your hair, make sure that once a month you're using a sulfate-free shampoo to really give your hair a good clean, because co-washing won't clean your hair. It's kind of like washing your hands but without soap, if you get what I mean. So if you do co-wash, make sure once a month at least that you do use a proper shampoo. I tend to alternate, so say this week I'll co-wash, next week I'll shampoo, the week after that I'll co-wash, the week after that I'll shampoo. That's what I tend to do. Number 4 on my don'ts list is to avoid overstyling your hair. Just general having our hair out on a day-to-day basis can put a lot of stress on our hair strands, hence why protective styling is a really helpful way to help hair grow, or retain length rather. So on a day-to-day basis, try not to have your hands constantly in your hair, constantly playing and things like that, and just avoid messing around with your hair all the time, because you will weaken your hair strands or cause breakage and things like that. Number 5 on my don'ts list. This is kind of a funny one. Again, this is something that once you get to know your hair better and you know what works and what doesn't work for your hair, things like that, you may go back to it. But a general rule of thumb, again, when you're first starting out your natural hair journey, is to avoid hair grease. This is because hair grease is made up of synthetic ingredients such as petroleum jelly, mineral oil. If you read the ingredients on the back, you'll see what I'm talking about. These synthetic ingredients are believed to not be able to be absorbed by our scalps. So when you put grease on your scalp or your hair, what you're really doing is just coating your hair and your scalp in a layer of synthetic goo in a tub that doesn't really have much purpose. Instead of using grease, you can use natural oil, so extra virgin olive oil, virgin organic coconut oil, jojoba oil, almond oil, castor oil, all these natural oils that actually they're full of nutrients and vitamins and things like that our scalp will actually absorb and put to use. You can use those instead. Number 6 on my don'ts list is don't use a towel to dry your hair. Towels, the fibers on them can cause friction against our hair strands, similar to the whole cotton thing. Ironically, instead of using towels, you can use a cotton t-shirt to dry your hair, but I don't mean going like this and to dry your hair. I mean literally like getting a cotton t-shirt, putting it over your head, just squeezing the moisture out your hair, maybe wringing your hair a little bit, but not going crazy, because again you will cause friction, which will lead to frizz and breakage and all the stuff that we want to avoid. Number 7 on my don'ts list is avoid fine tooth combs. You don't just throw them out. Unless you're straightening your hair, you're going to be working in really small sections. You don't need a fine tooth comb. Oh my gosh, if anyone ever went near my natural hair with a fine tooth comb, just don't do it. This is why I don't trust people with my hair. Fine tooth combs will, if used incorrectly, they're the most likely to rip your hair out. Basically, you only really need wide tooth combs and your fingers. I can't see why you would need a fine tooth comb unless you're like parting or anything like that. But yeah, a lot of natural people, they don't use combs at all. They don't even use wide tooth combs. Like, it's not necessary to use a comb. If used incorrectly, a comb can actually wreak havoc on your hair and cause so much breakage and damage if used incorrectly. So you don't need fine tooth combs really. And number 8 on my don'ts list, this is probably going to be the most helpful out of all of them, is to avoid obsessing over other people's hair. If you have 4C hair and you're obsessing over a girl with 3B hair, yes, encourage other people, admire other people, but don't obsess over other people's hair type. You'll probably eventually end up looking at her and thinking, oh, like one day, so you're having a bad hair day, and being like, I wish my hair just laid like her hair. I wish my hair just slicks down like her hair did. I wish my hair was as easy to detangle as her hair is. And then you're gonna end up resenting your hair and possibly pushing your natural hair journey, like, coming to a stop. If you're serious about your natural hair journey, like I said before, admire other people, encourage other people, but don't obsess over other people's hair. Me personally, on my personal Instagram account, the naturals that I do follow, they tend to have hair similar to me, not only because I can look at them and be like, oh, hair goals, but their hair goals, they're realistic hair goals because they have hair like mine. But also, if they have tips or whatever on their page, those tips are more likely to work for me because they have hair like me, rather than taking tips from someone who has hair completely different to mine. They're probably gonna have different styling techniques and stuff like that that wouldn't work for me. So obviously, like I said, admire, encourage, but don't obsess over other people's hair, especially if their hair types are completely different to yours. So that is my natural hair 101 do's and don'ts, and thank you for watching.